Hello and welcome all. A very good afternoon to everyone. Please let the people know in the group or in whichever group you belong to that the session has started, and whoever wants to learn about articulation can come and join for the last online session. So, once we have a handful number of people, we will start with the session. Please share the link so that anyone who wants to join for the session can join in whichever group you belong to, or at least let the people know that the session has started. Can we know who are there in the session? Okay, so let's start off with today's session. So yesterday we started off with a new series of articulation in English, and in which we learned about the definition of what is articulation. So if anybody of among you can please tell me the definition of articulation, and then we also learned about the different parameters in articulation. So can anyone let me know in the chat? Okay, so I suppose that nobody is. Okay, so to present your opinion in the right way, that is one form of it. Any other, Somnath? Correct. I would agree with that. That is one form of it. Any other? Like when do you use articulation? That one is perfect for the first type, or we can say one thing can be used to achieve multiple objectives. So one of the objectives is to present your opinion in the right way. What could be the other objective? Correct. That would be another one, to persuade or to convince anyone so that you are able to get or accomplish your objectives with which you started this conversation. So yeah, that makes sense. Both of these sentences are correct. Then we learnt about what were the different articulation parameters. Can you name few of those which are very important? Like we have 10 in front of us. Out of those 10, how many of those do you think are really important, and without those the rest would not matter? So after learning about the definition of articulation, we learned about the different parameters which form the basis of articulation. And in that we learned about there were few ones which are so important that if you do not take care of those, then rest of the pointers do not become of much value to you. So can anybody let me know which of these 10 are the most important ones, because of which the rest have their importance? So only Somnath is in the chat, or anybody else is also there? And if there is something which I have not understood from yesterday's session, or if you have not joined yesterday's session, I would recommend to please go through it. So now let's start with today's session, in which we are going to learn about small talk. So in small talk we have these 3 points which are crucial to us, in which we will learn about what are the nuances of making a small talk, and how people around the world use small talk, for what benefits, for what ways to convince others, or how to start off the conversation and jump into the main part. Also, we will learn about the term of elevator pitch. So let's access this link which is available to us, and here we will learn about these things, which is nothing but the 4 tips for using small talk in business scenarios, or we can say client meeting conversations. So the very first line itself says to us that when you are with a customer or a client in a meeting, it is unlikely that you will always be talking shop, which literally means talking about business related topics. So maybe this could be a part of some cultures in which you talk direct to the point, but yeah, in most of the cultures around the world we do not have that kind of scenarios, or we do not have that kind of a culture. So sometimes you will have to engage in what is called as the small talk. So basically it is around going through a tunnel to reach the main spot, which is nothing but the actual talk for which you have gathered around. So small talk is when you talk about things that do not really matter too much, such as the weather. So what happens is that you start to build up a conversation, and this build up will eventually lead you to the exact point for which you have gathered together. And you can see here this, you do this to occupy time and be polite. It means that what you're trying to do is that you are trying to build up a rapport. Rapport will help you to build the conversation, and that conversation will take turn towards some trust, which will eventually lead to get the work done for which you guys have gathered over there. And therefore it is done in order to occupy some time, at the same time show the politeness. But it can also be surprisingly useful for client meeting conversations. So as I told you that here you are not trying to beat around the bush, but here you are trying to come up with something which will eventually lead to the end objective or the end goal. So the very first point is nothing but the make a conversation with the small talk. So it is not just about that we have started the small talk just for wasting a time or letting the time go or actually trying to be polite, but you are being polite by starting off with something which will eventually lead you to the direct point for which you have gathered. So what does it mean to make a conversation with someone in a meeting? So as you can see over here, that you do not have to become best friends with your colleagues or clients, but you should come across like a likable, trustworthy person. So this is what I was trying to say, that things will eventually come up only when you try to say that you are seen as a trustworthy person. You have built trust, you have built a good rapport with the person in front of you or ahead of you. So what will happen is that after that only you guys will start to dwell up in the business conversation, the conversation for which you have gathered. So that is nothing but the best way to do that is by connecting with people. Now to connect means to join two things together. So here we are talking about human bondings. Here we are trying to speak about building a trust which will eventually help us to go long way. Now to connect with someone can mean to get in touch with or contact someone, usually for a purpose. Now yes, here if we are saying about a business meeting, definitely means that we have a purpose or an objective to get it done as soon as this meeting or the conversation ends. So here we have given an example that can you connect with Paul to get the reports you need for the project. It means that they wanted to connect to gather some reports. Second example is I'll connect with you later this week to confirm the meeting. Now once again they want to connect. It means that they want to get on a conversation to finalize the time for the meeting, that when they can meet, when they can go ahead with the business proposal, whatever the scenario could be. Now second is to bond with someone, often over a commonality. It means that there is a common ground for two different people to come together and form a bonding. For an example, here you can see that I really connected with Jane last night, especially when I learned she has a Persian cat just like I do. So now they have a common ground, which is nothing but having a Persian cat. So both of them have a Persian cat, and this will make them feel that we actually share a similar kind of psychology, or we have a similar kind of thinking. So that is nothing but an invisible bond being formed with because of that common ground. Or in the second example, if you take him to dinner, then maybe the two of you will connect. It means that if you spend a quality time together, if you have a dinner, there are high chances that you might start to know about each other, and which will maybe help in building the trust for a longer period of time. So as you can see over here, when you connect with someone in a meeting or another business related situation, it's easier for a person to remember you. You usually become more likable as well. So when people are meeting with business purpose, you can understand that with the changing requirements, we have to meet with several number of people. So how do you remember, how do you recognize the next person even without going through their, we can say, professional resumes or professional contact cards? Until unless you have a strong bonding or you share a we can say a point of trust, you would not be remembering the same person exactly without trying to remember the names when you meet them in person. So this is where these kind of things will help you. So there are a few main other ways to connect with people while using small talk. For an example, first is nothing but use common experiences. Now if you have been to Dubai or the other person have been to Dubai, you could share things about what was common over there, what things you liked, what things you disliked. So here you can see that, do you have any vacation plans for this summer? Wow, that sounds like it will be great. It means that You asked someone that, do you have any plans for the summer? So if the other person replied that I have this things planned up in my mind, and if that aligns with your thinking as well, then definitely there will be something that you could react to, that yeah, it sounds really great. Maybe you could just try to, for an example, if you're going for a ride, you could say that, oh, do not forget to take that ride as well. If you have already experienced it and you know it is good one, you can suggest it. Then if you get a chance, you should definitely try the daily around the corner. So that is what I was trying to say, that if you have already experienced something and you feel that the other person is going to be somewhere nearby, you would be not hesitant to suggest them that thing. So this is what the other person is trying to say, that if you get a chance, you should definitely try the daily around the corner. So it means that there are high probable chances that the other person has already tried this and enjoyed it. Next, which hotel are you staying at? A few other clients have stayed there. They said it was quite nice. So once again, the third person is trying to recommend it to someone upon hearing the reviews by other people. So now talk about the person's hometown or where the business is located now. So what will happen over here is that if you are trying to get into the other person, if you're trying to build that rapport, that trustworthiness, you can have these small talks. In the first one, you use the common experiences. In the second one, you're trying to know about the person, what his hometown is, what business he is into. So you can say that I went to Chicago a few years ago and I liked it a lot. So what is happening here is that you are trying to be genuine. You are just not trying to fake up with the next person so that he or she develops a liking towards you, but you are trying to be genuine as possibly as you can. So if you're talking about the person's hometown, and this usually happens in business talks, or we can say small talks which start the business talk. So if a person is belonging to your hometown, you would say that that is something that where I belong to or where I grew up. These were the things during my time. How are they going on right now? Like, has there been any advancements? How are the things right now? You would love to know about that. So now you can see the second statement, that I saw your headquarters are located in Dallas, Texas. My sister lives in Dallas. So now it was about Chicago, and then he turned the conversation towards something which is nothing but a smaller city in that place. So then we had the, oh, you are from Colorado. I hear there are some great places to ski there. So basically the conversation starts building up in such a way that because you have a common place, you have been there, you have several experiences. So now that things start to dwindle up and form a bigger snowball. It means that the trust, the conversation flow and the openness in between you starts to wind up. By wind up, I mean that they start to get pretty faster, or we can say more opened. Then you can see what else you can do. You can mention this college or school. So you are a University of Michigan alumna. Did you see that football game last night? So once again, here also they are having a common ground. If they both belong to the same university, if they both belong to the same, we can say affiliated center, like where both of them schools were affiliated to. For an example, if people are from different colleges in Mumbai, they could say that yeah, they both belong to the University of Mumbai. So now the conversation will get more interesting because they will now start to talk about things that happened during school, things that happened, people they knew or people who were common for both of them, maybe the teachers. So these things will start to, like we can say, unfurl and come together. So you can see here that you went to the University of Texas, I went to Rice University in Houston, but we used to always drive over to Austin for the weekends. So it doesn't have to be necessarily that you need to belong to that. You could also be traveling via that road. You could also be gazing over that for some other purpose, but you just went over to see over there. Now you can have the last common point, which is something that mostly happens no matter if it is a business conversation or a normal conversation. We tended to discuss common interests or likes. So you like sushi? I love it too. In fact, there's a great sushi restaurant downtown. So what is happening over is that they are both finding a common ground on a dish which they both like. And if you have already tasted something in the local town, then you would surely like to recommend it to the other person. Or if you can see that you're trying to know about the other person, if he or she is into sports, then you are asking this question: are you a sports fan? If yes, then maybe you could discuss some sports that recently happened in the past week and last night, something, so that you all get going on a conversation that builds up towards that end goal of business talk. So this was nothing but the first point. Here you are making a connection with this small talk. Now if you have started the small talk and now there is some sort of a connection, we have connected yourselves on common grounds. Maybe it was because of some common experiences, maybe because you guys shared a common hometown, maybe you had something about college or school that makes you both connect over time, maybe you have common interests or common likes. So these were the four topics. Then once you have started the conversation, you need to stay engaged in the conversation so that you do not lose out with the trust. Just allow me a moment. So let's learn about this. Whenever you're talking with someone, you should show interest in the conversation. Now, this is definitely something that if you are in front of a person and if you do not feel that you are inclined to that person, things won't go straight. So that is what they're trying to say, is that whenever you're trying to talk with someone, you must show that you are interested in that conversation. It is not just for the sake of it. This is true for small talk and any other business discussion. If you are not interested, the other person will not be interested either. Here are some tips to help you be more engaged in the conversation. So, if you want to be literally seen as you are someone who is interested in the conversation, what should you do? This is something that you do unconsciously because it is human tendency, but what the writer is trying to say over here is that just in case you feel dumbstruck, you do not feel like to speak or you do not know what to speak, so in that case these pointers will help you to let the conversation going. So first is one, don't just talk, ask questions and listen. So it is not just about you have initiated the conversation and now you are the sole runner of the conversation. So that becomes a monologue in which you just keep on speaking and you're not paying attention to the gestures of the other person, to the reactions of the other person. So what the author is trying to say over is that don't just talk, ask questions and listen. So if you speak something about a sports last night, because you started the small talk and you're talking about the sports last night, you could ask, did you notice that special moment that happened during the game in the last night? Whose goal did you like the most? If you're talking about football, so in that scenario you will understand that whether the other person is actually interested to hear you out or to make this conversation going. What will happen is that you could ask, who was your favorite star last night, or like who was your favorite player last night, and then the conversation will start building from there. If the other person is not interested in that topic, maybe he or she will suggest you or ask you something else, and then you have to listen to it because you are the one who was speaking initially, but then you realize that the other person is not interested in the conversation that you have started. So you must listen to the conversation which is now trying to be initiated with the other person and respond accordingly, so that the conversation actually has any meanings and will be carrying forwarded for a long time. Or you could ask the simple question of second one, like any weekend plans. It means that you are not just trying to be on the business lines, or you're not just trying to be interested in the other person by saying the things that you have, but you're trying to ask the other person what his or her interests are. Are they having any time for the weekends? Are they having any plans for it? And then finally, another example is, do you know any good restaurants around here? So what it will say, that it will just try to make the other person come up with whatever opinions they have. So if the person has actually tried any restaurants, they will have their own opinions. Which one was good? What was the specialty which went to the different restaurants? How the people in the locality like it? Is it just me who likes this restaurant, or many people in the locality do like it? What is their favorite dish, or what we can say there? What is their star dish of the restaurant? So in this, the person who is in front of you will feel that yeah, he is or she is being listened to and responded accordingly, so that the conversation gets going. There is another thing, that pay attention to the person with whom you are talking. Now this is something interesting point. How can you not pay attention to the person with whom you are talking to? Here is the very first point. You can see that do not look at your phone or watch. It is very common nowadays that even if two people are talking, most of the other person is someone. The person who is not talking is the person who is usually looking or staring into their mobile phones, maybe scrolling through Instagram, or having a call on the phone, something which is not a part of the conversation, something which will make the other person feel as if they are not cared for at that moment of time. Second, you're just trying to shy away because your eyes are into your phone, you are paying attention to something else, you are looking around for someone else. So just try to make eye contact wherever possible and whenever possible. It means that you are actually listening to the other person, and the other person will feel like, yeah, I am being listened to. Then nod your head occasionally to show interest. Definitely this is something that we as humans have a tendency, and we do. Whenever we agree with something, we will usually nod our heads. Maybe this could vary from culture to culture, like how to nod their heads, but yeah, this is a human tendency, and we do nod our heads whenever there is something in which we are interested, or in which we feel that yeah, we agree to it. Then smile when they talk about things they like. So it is not just about the things they like, but it is about something that you are trying to make them feel that yeah, you agree with them. If they like ice creams, sure, why not? It is your choice. You could like whatever you want. You are just trying to say that yes, this is perfectly fine. If you like ice cream, if you like pizzas, that is also perfectly fine. That's great, you have a great choice. It is not just because you want to say, but yeah, there are people who will like it, there are people who will not like it. But if there is someone who likes something, you can appreciate it, because the things are meant to be because somebody likes it. Then notice small things that could be conversation starters. Now where does this point comes into picture? If you are someone who is very keen observer of the things around you, you could definitely start off with a conversation. For example, if two people are at a club, maybe a television is being run on and there is a news that has happened in the locality. Maybe there has been an accident. So what will happen over that point of time is that you can start off a conversation. Oh, this is really sad to hear that these kind of incidents are happening day to day. So this could be a conversation starter. The other person might share his opinion. Why is it happening? What can we do to avoid it? So here you can see this, right? If you see a person's name badge says he is from Los Angeles, then you could start that, oh, Los Angeles, that's a really great city. So what will happen is that the other person might feel that yeah, there is some appreciation with the place from where I am from. So you, if it is coming towards you, you will feel that yes, I could say something more about the city. Maybe there is a new building that has been constructed, maybe there is a new architecture which has been brought, maybe there is a new place which has been opened for the tourists. So that is something that you who has received the compliment can start the conversation from at the next point of time. Then if a person has a photograph of a family on a cruise, which cruise was that? So basically whatever things you see, if you are a keen observer, you can definitely start a conversation from it. If you see if you see a photograph on a Harley Davidson bike, you could ask, or you could see, wow, Harley Davidson, that's a great bike, I wish I would have one someday. So this is something that will help to start up a conversation. Now the other person did not meant it for you, but yeah, you could see it, you could notice it, and you felt that it was great to have it. So if a phone's ringtone is a familiar song, now is that Coldplay? I saw them in a concert a few years back. What a show! The same thing, if there is a ringtone which is playing Game of Thrones, you could say that, wow, that's an amazing tone. I have liked the theme song for a long time. So you could directly turn the conversation from maybe the ringtone to the show. Like, what was the show? How did it go? Which seasons did you like? So this is something that you have to be alert on your side. You have to open up with the things so that you can talk about it. Then finally, do some research about the person to know more about him or her. So here you can see that use some of the basic information you find in a conversation. So basic information, maybe the other person will reveal about what his hometown is, which school or university have they gone to. So you will find those clues if you are actually paying attention to it. And what you can do from there on, you can build the conversation. Learn which topics they do not like so you can avoid them. Now there are certain things which people like, which they do not like. So there are certain conversation enders as well. As we heard about the conversation starters, there are conversation enders as well. So just try to avoid the points which the other person don't like. First time you did it unintentionally because you were not aware. Next time just point to those things that, yeah, last time I used this thing, I got low responses, I was not able to figure out what happened wrong, so maybe I will try to avoid these things from next time. So those are nothing but the conversation killers. So you must try to avoid those things which the other person do not like. The last point can really help guide your client meetings conversation and get to go know your client better. If you check social media and found out that your client is a vegetarian, then you know they will not care about the best burger you have ever eaten, unless it is a tofu burger, of course. So what they're trying to say is that if they are a vegetarian and you are thinking about telling something about that this restaurant has the best mac veggie, or I mean to say mac chicken veggie, so that is something which you are trying to, instead of start the conversation, you're trying to kill the conversation. So definitely you have to take care of those things. First time it could be unintentionally, but next time onwards you have to think about it before starting and doing some things like that. Likewise, if you learn that your client traveled to England last summer, then you might have a conversation like this. I'm planning on taking the family to England. Have you ever been there? Now, the other conversation would keep on going like, yes, in fact, I went last summer. Or really, is there anything I should definitely make sure to see? Personally, I'm not much of a city person, so London wasn't for me, but Devon was extraordinary. So as I told that, if the other person has been to another place which he or she would recommend, then definitely try to listen to that person, and if you can make it, just go over there. So finally they would say that I'll definitely try to check it out, thanks for the tip. So what is happening over here, that you have started the conversation and at the same time you have maintained the conversation. You just did not let it go directly or abruptly. So I hope the session was useful to you guys. We will continue with the third point from next session. Do not forget to like the session and share with your friends in whichever group you belong to, so that others will join in and learn articulation in English. So till then, see you guys, take care, bye bye.